Hey everyone, welcome to the Soulful Eclectic. I'm your host, Diana Collins, and I just want to welcome you back. If this is your return visit with us, I want to say thank you for returning and spending your time with me, and also everyone else, right? And also, if this is the first time you're visiting, welcome. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for selecting the Soulful Eclectic to listen to be a part of your day or your moment of time. With that in mind, I want to greet you all with love and light, and may you all find peace and protection on these days. I know we're in some tumultuous times that are going on now, and I just know that it's affecting all of us mentally, which whatever affects us mentally affects us physically at some point. But just take that time out to rejuvenate yourself, your energy, your chakras, and just recenter and then just tackle the day and just do the best that you can. One of my favorite mantras is I can only do my best. When I can do better, then I will, right? So I'm present with everything that I do. I'm mindful with the things that I do, and sometimes we fall short, but you know what? The part of mindfulness is you acknowledge it and you do better, right? Each day you do better. So today I have with me a great friend that I just met who, yeah, she's just become that person that we have great conversation. So with that, I'd like to introduce Dr. Renair Amin, and she is known for Pink Love. She's a Pink Love specialist, and she's a speaker and educator for trauma, especially trauma in relationships, sexuality, and religious faith based trauma. So without further ado, I'll introduce Dr. Renair Amin. Thank you so much for joining me. It's definitely a pleasure. I love chatting with you, so it's just easy.
I know. We get started. It's like we old friends.
Exactly.
I think we were friends in a past life.
Exactly.
Like, we just busted up.
It's like we just pick up from wherever we left off, and no one, people who would listen to us would think we've been friends forever.
Yeah, but I love relationships like that. I have some friends that be like, "Oh, hey, strangers, been along, all that stuff," and I'd be like, "Stop."
Exactly.
Just like I ain't call you, you ain't call me.
Exactly.
And we're not strangers. We know each other. Let's do something else. Stop being passive aggressive.
Right. Right. Let's change the verbiage in our greeting, please. Let's not do that.
Right.
All right. So I have with me today, I'm just going to say a good friend, because that's what we are. Okay. It's like, we met each other and we chatted up, and it's just been that. And I think every time we have a conversation, no matter how quick or how long or via email or whatever, it's always something that is fruitful, right? I think we take something away from every conversation that we've had together. And it hasn't been that many, but you know what? That's how valuable and how much quality our conversations are, right? So without any other ramblings from me, I have Dr. Renair Amin. And did I pronounce that right? Amin. I like to
Amen.
That New York amen, right? It's like always say the long A, not the short A, the long A.
Like, hallelujah, amen.
Amen.
So it's Renair Amin, though.
Right. But she is you have your own podcast, Pink Love, right?
Yes, it's all about Pink Love.
It's all about Pink Love. And you're an educator. You do trauma-informed education, right? Relationships, sexuality, religion, all those things. And these are all things that we all face, especially now during these tumultuous times that we're going through, where everybody's culture, religion is on the foreground of being reconstructed and destructed. Right? I don't know if that's fair to say, but I from my perspective, that's what I see because of the chaos that we've been viewing on MSN and CNN and Fox News and things like that. But yeah, so I would like you to share you. So first off, tell us a little bit about who you are.
So yes, I am Dr. Renair Amin, and outside of titles and anything else, I am simply Renair. I am known as the Pink Love Specialist, and I am all about having conversations that relate to healing the heart. So that's how Pink Love came to be, because I'm really, even in my personal life with my friends, I'm always like, so what can I do to support you?
Right.
And I have probably been that way since I was a child. Mm-hmm. So it's weird because I walk in many different lanes. Like, I'm probably one of those people that's a jack of many things. I can't say I'm not a master of any, but I do various things, but they all are around healing. Mm-hmm. So they still have that motif of healing. I can't get away from it. I could be jogging down the street and there's something healing. Well, of course, there's something healing for my body, but
right.
it still has to. It still shows up in some type of healing or nurturing way. So that's me in a nutshell.
Well, okay. And that's a lot. I mean, because there are layers to that. And that's quick synopsis of your description of yourself. Now, you said there's something healing about just being out and, doing your exercises, running and things like that. But in that time frame and getting to that point, what led you to be that person that drove you to that healing? What part of your authentic self brought you to recognize that you are that natural healer?
Well, let me rewind just a second and say I use jogging as an analogy. Anyone that knows me knows I haven't jogged around a thing in a long time. But
I got you.
to if I can be honest, would be trauma.
Okay.
I am a survivor of many things. I'm a survivor of family tragedy, of sexual assault, addiction, domestic violence, ... Mm-hmm. And so growing up, I had childhood trauma. I was adopted, and I found out in a very painful way. My adopted father passed away when I was very young, and other things took place. So I think that deep down inside, I became a person that wanted to fix things. I wanted people around me to be okay, even though I wasn't. And so, I always share with people, today I have a doctorate of ministry, but I dropped out of high school. Mm-hmm. I went on to get my GED and then started my academic journey, but it was later in life.
Right.
It was not the typical experience. And so for me, there was just a part of my walk that I just wanted to make sure everyone else was okay, even the people that may have been part of my trauma. Mm-hmm. Sadly, I just wanted everyone to be okay, because I think now, looking back and going through some of the deeper work that I've gone through, I believe that if I could make everyone else okay, mm-hmm. then it would make me okay. Because if they're good, then they don't have a reason to not be good to me.
Right. If they're good, they won't harm me. They're having a great day, then it won't backlash on me.
Right. And that wasn't the truth, of course.
Right.
But as a younger person, that's the way that the mind might grab it. Mm-hmm. Like, if I can make it okay for everyone else, then it'll be okay for me.
Right. So those situations is what we call out in the world, and I'm sure you're versed in this as well, but I'll share with everyone adverse childhood experiences, the ACEs, right? And we we share these because we all come with some sort of ACE in our life. There's a whole like test you can take online for it, and I think my score is like a 6 or 7. And with that, it it tells you whether or not how well you are able to cope with things, and that you have a level of trauma that you bring to situations, right? So the person you are now shows your resilience. And by you saying you didn't graduate from high school, you picked yourself up later in years, and now you're a doctorate in ministry. That shows your resilience, right? And the traumas that we face in life. And one of the things that we talk about on both of our podcasts and series is that our traumas are a part of us, but they don't make us who we are. They're a part of us, and they are, I don't know, branches in our trees, but the leaves and it feeds it, the roots that feed it, it doesn't determine which way the leaves go and which way the leaves grow and how big it grows. That's all up to you and what you do with it. I don't know if that makes sense. I just pulled that out of somewhere, but
pulled it out of truth.
Right. But it's still, we can't get rid of it no matter how hard we try. Right? And that's something you were trying to do by helping other people that were harming you feel better. You were trying to take that away.
Yes, and you hit something on the head. You know, it doesn't always go away.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I hear people say, I got to get rid of it. And I feel like there's a place of transmuting it. I don't know if it goes away, but I do believe that you can take some of the things that you've gone through and transmute it in a way to create a level of healing in your life. It becomes motivation. It becomes
your testimony,
part of your foundation that you get to step off on. You know,
right.
Not the thing that keeps you down inside your story.
Right, right. One of the things I like to say is my test to my testimony.
Right.
Right?
Exactly.
Because, you know, it's, again, it's a part of you and you can't change it, but you've learned to mold it and build on top of it. And you build something that is greater than what is part of.
Right. Because you do have to, I have to acknowledge that part of the safety of being in my story and being in my trauma was comfortable for me. Mm-hmm. And it was something that I allowed to prevent me from doing things. I can't do this because this happened, or I can't do this because this happened, or that happened. And truthfully, you know, although I am older now, I still have moments that I have to check myself and go, whoa,
right,
this feels like something.
Right. And that's you being mindful of those triggers, right? Because we have to acknowledge them. And we grow up in a society where we're told to, like you said, mute it, bring it down. You move on like it doesn't exist, but it does. It does. And we bring these to our relationships, either intimate or non-intimate. We bring it into the workplace. We put it on our significant other, our children. So we have to address this. And you know, what was your journey like addressing all these things?
Well, I spent some time in a mental institution, so that was great.
Oh, wow, right? Being a black female in
your life.
Absolutely, being a black female in an institution. What?
Right. Like, when I say that, people get real quiet. They're like, well,
I know. I don't know what to say to that.
You know, I'm serious. It's the first place I saw a black squirrel, but that's a different conversation. And I don't know. It started from childhood. It started with being adopted within my family. Matter of fact, I'm writing about it in the latest book that I'm working on. Being adopted within my family and not knowing.
Wow.
So I was infant family adopted, not knowing, and then having who turned out to be my biological sister blurt out that who I thought was my cousin was really my mother because she got angry with me or jealous about something, her words, and blurted it out to me. So I'm like 6 or 7 years old. And now my whole structure of what I know to be a family is so. And then I had some real serious challenges growing up with my biological mother. So here was this space of never feeling like I belonged anywhere. So I had this real need to belong on this quest of finding love, finding someone to love me. Because at that point, I just thought everybody lied to me.
Right.
And having my first, I want to say my first loving experience not go well. And then what I thought to be this mature love, this, I'm 12.
Right.
I don't know.
Right.
And then I come across a sibling of a friend of mine, and then that turns into assault. So very early, I didn't have the emotional meter. Like, I didn't have the conversation. I'm sure that there's like medical terms that fit these categories, but I tend to talk layman. Because I don't want to say something and someone misses it.
We appreciate layman terms, and because
right, layman, I try to speak in not inside of a language of an industry. I like to speak where people don't have to necessarily grab the dictionary to figure out what I'm talking about.
Absolutely.
So with that, I don't know. That's where it started. That's where the thread started. That's where I can honestly go back through almost every relationship, friendship, loveship. I almost said a different word, but I'm gonna keep it PG. And I can find that thread of needing to belong, needing to be loved, in some of the most painful dynamics, even my dynamics in church and business and leadership, just that need of validation, of approval. And it has cost me a lot over time. And I don't even regret, but I'm just more aware of it now.
Because it built you. It's one of those things that are part of you. And we have to go through those hardships, right? Right. Even though we choose not to and we try to avoid them, sometimes it's hard to avoid because it's part of our growth, our evolution.
Oh, absolutely. God will lay you on your back.
Absolutely.
God is, your higher power, however you identify the God of your understanding, God will lay you on your back.
Yep. My mom used to say, she still does say, you want to hear God laugh? Tell him what you have planned.
Yeah, you will look up and really have to deal with yourself. And when you have that moment, I told somebody once, I used to tell people I wanted to date me.
Yes.
Like, I want to date somebody like me. Because nobody understands me. I need to date someone like me.
Yeah.
And my pivotal life change was finally dating someone like me. And I was like, oh, heck no.
No.
You got some work to do, honey.
Isn't that the truth?
I was hearing myself say things to the other person that people used to say to me. And and that frustration that started to come with that, and I was like, oh, honey, this is what you've been showing up as? Oh, no.
It's like, okay, let's reverse this. Let me change me.
Yeah. Yes, like, no, bring it back. Put that back. Mm-mm.
Oh,
Mm-mm.
but
And
that's
it made me reevaluate my life.
right. That's a real moment right there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh. I had the, like, I think we talked about this, but I had the realest moment when I turned 40 and my then fiance, I found out she was cheating on me with someone she worked with, and all these things, and we were friends for 30 plus years. We went to the school together, elementary school and high school together. So it's like, you had that bond. And the realization moment came when I looked in the mirror and I found I was actually in my car getting ready to follow her to this other woman's house and do all these, crazy things that is totally, totally out of my wheelhouse, out of my personality. And I looked in that mirror. I said, "You fool." I said, I had
the windows out the car.
right. I had it was going to be a complete Carrie Underwood, right? That's her. She bust the windows out of the car, flat the tire. I had the whole scenario going in my head, and it was at that moment that I looked at myself in the eye and I said, "You can't do this. This is this is not you." First of all, I love the color orange, but I don't want to wear it every day. I'm not trying to go to jail for somebody.
My
Right?
brother told me one day from a real honest place, I was acting up. I was younger. I was acting a fool too. I was hustling. I was doing some other things. And my brother just pulled me to the side and said, "Kia," because my first name was Lakia. He said, "Kia, let me tell you something. You can't do nothing in a prison but teach GED. You are not built for nobody's prison. So sit yourself down somewhere and get yourself together, because all you can do is teach a class."
Exactly. That's it. That's it. And it was at that moment that I said, I have to change this. I have to reevaluate. I said, I'm a grown woman. There's a grown, educated woman. There's no reason that these thoughts should even, or should allow someone to bring me to that space, right? So it was that point that I just said, I'm changing. I'm changing me. I'm doing better for me. And it was at that point that God, the universe, brought me my husband. Right? We weren't dating. He was actually my former student. Right? And right. And he, I just was like in that place, and it just transcended from there. And I was like, wow, God, you just really just brought me this person. And it was like that. He's been there that whole time. You just were busy with stupid.
Right.
Right? You were busy with stupid. And you had to get rid of that and be done completely with that before you were able to really see clearly. Right? So
yeah.
And that is, and I say that because that's kind of what that moment that you had reminds me of, is that clear moment where I have to reevaluate me.
Yeah, and here's the ha-ha. Like, so I do trauma-informed work. I deal with spiritual trauma specifically for the LGBTQ plus community. But in addition, I am a certified master coach. I'm a relationship wellness expert.
Go,
like,
girl.
This is something that, like, I marry people, I mediate couples, I help people get ready for relationships, get out of relationships. Like, this is my work.
Oh, good, because then
I have had some of the worst relationships because I wasn't.
Right.
I had not healed things. I had not healed things, and this is not anything against my past partners, because they might have had some things they had to address too, but because I had not healed things, I either caused things or allowed things that on a regular day, now, I absolutely would not. Because, again, having that need to be loved, that need to belong, that need to be part of something, and I couldn't, when you have, like we talked about trauma, when you have unhealed trauma, it gives you a different filter. Right. So when you see things from a certain place, you may not realize that it's not healthy. Like, I hear people want the crazy love and the this, that, and the third. No, you really don't.
No, you don't.
You really don't. And you don't really have to have that.
No.
And I think when I had my first relationship that was not full of some type of drama at some point, I thought something was wrong with it.
Yes. You're looking for the ball to drop. It's like, this is too good. What's going on? Right?
Right. Or if, because I thought if you're not arguing, if you're not fighting, that means that they don't love you or something is wrong.
It goes back to that childhood experience. Because
exactly.
That's
you can have a disagreement and it not be a fight.
Yes, and it be okay. But you
exactly.
But
it
you
doesn't mean it's the end. It doesn't mean they don't respect you. It just means that in this situation y'all have a difference of opinion, and that's okay.
And yes, and you know what? And in your relationships, you're still going to be tackling that. You're still going to be faced with that because those are your triggers from past dealings with relationships. And I see that in myself, in my relationship. My husband and I have only been married 4 years, of going on 5 years. And we got married, honestly, like really quickly. 6 months after we were dating, he proposed to me, and then we were married 6 months after that. But it goes to show his definitive feeling for me, and my, just kind of, let's jump at it, let's do it and see where it goes kind of attitude. That's what I had in my, like, I love you, but let's see where it goes. Who knows, right? I've done worse. I know it's a bad way to look at it, but I've done worse, so why not?
There's no such thing as good or bad.
No.
It's how that's where someone's perspective is. I was on the other end. I had been moving quickly, and so after my divorce, I just was like, oh, I need to take a minute. Like,
right.
We're gonna have to like slow walk. We're gonna have to turtle it
right
to the next point. So hence I dated the person I'm currently with. We dated for a year before we even said we're in a relationship. Like,
see,
I was the complete opposite end. But again, that's what worked for me this time, because
right.
I was still clear that while I'm in my healing process, I don't want to bring you what I've been through.
Right. But you're still going to have those moments, which is, those triggers that I was talking about, because even I still have those triggers, and he still has triggers from his past relationship that we both work on individually and together. And that's one of the things I wanted to say, is that when you're in a relationship, either dating or married, if you are choosing to extend that relationship and continue to build that bond, you have to continuously work on yourself and work as a unit, right? And work as a unit. Yep. Because even, just a couple of months ago, we had a huge blowout over paying a bill that was paid, but because we didn't move money fast enough in the accounts to minute it kick back. Life issues, right? Real life stuff. And then it's like it became this big trust issue, right? Like, I can't trust you to do this, and it's like, oh wait, how do we get there? There? And it was that was his past experience coming into play. And then by that response, it triggered something in me. It's like, oh, wait, so we're doing this now. So you had to take, and it took us both stepping away and thinking about it, because neither one of us wanted to say anything to her, that was going to cause damage, right? So you step.
Right, because you can't undo words.
No.
People think you can undo things. You cannot when you make that. I'm a Virgo, so I can be a jugular fighter. Like, I'm clear that I can say that thing that your whole soul comes rising up outside, outside of your mouth. But I've learned over the years that sometimes you can't come back from those things.
Right.
So I often have to take a breath and go, okay, so do I want to be right, or do I want to heal?
Yes.
Because if I want to be right, then I'm gonna come at this from a different way. But if I want us to have an understanding and to heal whatever is happening, then I might just have to, bring the tongue in a little bit.
Exactly. Right. And that's a real struggle that we have within us. And I know people's like, oh, there's no difference from you being from this place and this place. If you're from the East Coast, our tongues are wicked. Okay. I don't care what anyone say. We are wicked when it comes to throwing words. And like you said, we lash at you and we go for the jugular. Because
I'm from Philadelphia.
See,
but I think it's too how you. I wasn't a fighter.
Right.
Like, I wasn't a fist fighter, but I had to learn how to make sure my words protected me.
See?
And it got me in some situations. Like, I've had a couple of, knockdown, drag-outs. And I went to Christian school, so that was definitely not the place to have a knockdown, drag-out.
Oh, that's why we get along. So did I. Like, what the heck?
You should have saw those people's faces as I was calling the guy that I was fighting. Every time I was a child of God, they was like, get her! Get her! My mom was like, Kia.
At it again.
Whenever my first name, because Renair, I started using my middle name as I got older. But my mom just had this way of saying my first name where it
as mothers do.
Octave, and I just knew that she was so disappointed in me. Like, it would just be like, Kia, like what were you thinking? And I'll be like, I don't know what I was thinking.
Right. It's that way moms can do. And unfortunately, this generation's parents really don't have that knack that our parents have, and maybe we have with our kids, that we can drop a few octaves and they know we mean business and we don't even have to lay hands, right? So I think that we had the look, right? Oh my goodness. And now I remember my mom, as she was taking the grandkids to church and stuff, she couldn't do the look. They kind of just like, oh, grandma's looking at me kind of thing. So what she started to do was pinch them on the back of their hair with what we call the kitchen. Right? She would grab them.
It's so old school. You said the kitchen.
Oh.
So can you break that down for the people?
I am.
Know what the kitchen is?
I was getting ready to, but I couldn't stop laughing at myself. All right. So for those of you who don't know what the kitchen is, well, Renair, you're going to get me in trouble on this podcast. Seriously.
I'm only laughing because somebody's like, she grabbed her in the kitchen?
In the kitchen.
How did that happen?
Right, you can totally see that. They're trying to visualize that in the church, how she grabbed them in the kitchen. Right?
Yes, Laban's turn.
Gosh. So the kitchen...
Sorry, okay.
So the kitchen is that area in the back of your neck where your hairline is. And, for those of us who have curlier hair, your hair curls up back there. And when your parents comb it, it hurts, right? So just imagine somebody pulling you at the hairline way at the back of your neck and just pulling at that. That hurts. And it gets your attention really quickly. So my mom did that to the grandkids a lot in church, because they would, talk and, do all kinds of things that they're not supposed to. And she's a deaconess and, does what is that, Sunday school and things like that. So she's got to be, the grandkids have to be at their best behavior when in service. So she would, oh my gosh, I don't know how she did it, but she would just, all of a sudden you hear her go, oh, Graham! And it's like, whatever, she got him. But so that's what the kitchen is. So just envision.
Oh, this thing going, that sounds abusive. She grabbed him in the nape of the neck. Like,
right. No. It's just the hair. It's just a little piece of hair that she gave a little tug just to let you know, just to bring you back into reality, that you're in a place of God and you need to behave yourself and keep quiet until it was time for you to, leave service. Nothing harmful.
I'm not judging. My mom pinched. She thigh pinched.
Oh, she side
pinched. She thigh pinched. She thigh pinched. Like she would take, I don't know. I don't know how she managed to. She had like the the strong hands. Mm-hmm. She managed to grab the meat in the thigh. She would pinch your thigh. It would be the feeling of disaster in the middle of service because you couldn't yell out.
No.
You couldn't yell out. You couldn't do anything but sit there and let the tears well up in your eyes and roll down. You couldn't even do the
right
breath. You had to sit there and take it, and all the time. And God forbid you were near the front because then the pastor's looking at you because he knows you got pinched.
Right.
He knows you got pinched.
Right.
And and everybody around you knows. So after service, the good Sister Thelma or the good whoever walk up and say, I saw you acting up. I saw your mother have to pinch you. You got to do better.
Right.
Now the whole church is in on the fact that you got pinched.
Exactly. That tribal caring that the tribe takes care of the family. Everybody knows everybody. Oh Lord. But those days were great, even though we laugh and we kid about it, but those were the best times. They really were. And they're gone. Kids these days will never know what it's like to have the neighborhood look out for you.
Right. I think about when I was growing up, my mom and my sister and would always talk about the way things were, and because I was adopted into that arm of my family. My sister was 18 years older than I, was and am, because she's still with us, and so I would hear her say, well, yeah, because back in, when I was growing up, or back in the 70s, y'all get it, and this, that, and the third. And now I find myself saying that when I'm talking to people younger than I am, because I'll be 46 this year. And if I'm talking to someone in their 20s or early 30s or whatever, I find myself saying to them, life is different now.
Yes. And
we went outside, and I wasn't allowed to necessarily play with everybody.
Me
but
either.
I know there were moments when I was allowed to go outside and run around and just, it was different.
It was freeing.
Right, and now these kids have it different because now they're in the middle of a pandemic.
Yes. Right? They're learning how to learn at home on computers instead of just playing their video games on the computers, right? Looking up YouTube videos. Now I have to learn and listen to my teacher. This is not fair.
Right. So there's no, I've been having this real conversation with people. There's no start and stop to the day.
Yes.
There's no break between, unless you're a person that has to leave the house. And I know that this conversation is specific to the region in which you live, because not all parts of the United States are shut down or locked down or things like that. So I do want to add that. But I will say Northeast, like up here, there is I noticed the difference as an adult. I can't imagine how that shows up for a child or a younger person.
Right. And then as parents, we have to learn to listen to that voice of our children, because they're telling us that they're stressed and they need an outlet. They need a change. They need some place to vent, some different reorganization of their new structure, right? And
Yes.
what we're finding is that as parents, we're not listening. We're not listening, or we're not listening effectively. We're picking and choosing what we're listening to, right? And with today's pandemic, and both of us working with people and with mental health and things like that, we need to have that grounded structure within ourselves, for us who are working from home, and also our children who are learning from home, right?
Yeah.
Building those.
How we do relationship now is different.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's parent to child, mate to mate, family, family dynamics, how we do relationship now is different. And that's a whole, we could be 3 or 4 hours. That's a whole nother conversation.
Right.
But people have learned between the pandemic and the new movements that are happening on the political front, people are learning things about those that they are connected to that they never even thought about.
Yes.
That they never even thought were possible. They're learning who their friends are, who they aren't.
Mm-hmm.
They're learning what it's like to go from barely seeing your mate to seeing your partner all the time, and how do we function with that, because I really don't like you enough to be in the house with you for 17 hours, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
People are learning so much about how we do relationship, and I don't think that we were ready for that lesson.
Oh no, we were just really thrown into that, weren't we?
Right. And so even the work that I've done on the relationship front, relationship with others or relationship with self, because when I speak about relationships, I'm not just talking about interpersonal, I'm talking about within as well. And so the conversations that I've started having with people are different. There are conversations around, will I meet someone? This pandemic has shown me what it's like to be by myself, and will I live my days out by myself? Or couples like, hey, I thought I liked him, and I really don't.
Yeah, because
I really don't, and I don't know what to do with that. Or we don't have anything in common. We have no intimacy. Like, there's a gambit of conversations that are happening, and they're different. So I always, I said that I wonder how that has affected other people that I know that work in relationships, and we sometimes get in conversations around that this whole past year has made us have to deal with relationships a lot different.
Oh yes. Oh yeah. And that's, oh my, yeah. I just think my husband and I spent a lot of time together, so this pandemic really did not affect us as it did for many others, because we already spent 90% of our time together, outside of the time I spent when I was in the classroom teaching and things like that. But other than that, our time was spent with each other. So this is not any, it doesn't throw my life into turmoil as it does for others. But I do see how it impacts others as far as the increase in awareness of domestic violence, right?
Yes.
And I say it that way because domestic violence has always been there, but now we see it more outward because people are home with their victimizers longer, and they don't have that escape. So we're seeing an increase on that being reported, right? And it's not. And I don't want to skew the numbers, but it's just more being reported than has been in the past. It doesn't mean that it wasn't existing, but now people are reporting it more because now they have that time to really acknowledge what's happening to them.
Yes, and that's a big. I belong to an organization here in New York that does domestic violence work. As I said earlier, I'm a survivor, and so I often come into the conversation of LGBTQ intimate partner violence, which adds another layer, to the conversation. And we were having a class last month, and that's what we were talking about. Just there's the level of escape. Like there is none.
No.
And the added factors of, God forbid, the person, the victimizer or the abuser or whatever term a person may use, they got laid off. Or they dealt with some other type of life stressor.
Yeah, that's a whole conversation in itself, right?
It's so large, and it's so much of a bigger conversation.
Yes.
But, I just want to add, and I'm sure anyone, you share the same sentiment. Like, if you're out there and you're listening right now and you are finding yourself in a situation, feel free to reach out to get some help, get some assistance. I'm Renair Amin everywhere. You can reach out to me and I can direct you to services in your area so that you can, get some help. You don't have to journey through that by yourself.
Exactly. And that's one of the reasons why, I started the podcast to make the community aware of their resources and be a resource for individuals, because we are at a loss. People are trying to find ways to help themselves. There's a lot of people that are out there that are doing some self-discovery. And with that self-discovery, it does mean that you're ending relationships with intimate partners. People have been married for 25, 30 years. And like you said, you find you don't like the person. That person doesn't fit your life anymore. So now it's time to sever that relationship and move on. And those are hard things to do. And sometimes right? And sometimes you need someone to talk to help you as you transition to this new lifestyle, right?
Right. And do it from a place, especially if you're coming out of an abusive relationship, do it from a place of safety. Because it's always about being safe.
Absolutely. And, between myself and Renair, we have a list of resources for everyone. And again, like, Renair said, it doesn't matter where you are in the region. We're definitely able to assist any way we can. And Renair is going to leave her information so that we can share it out with everyone. And also, if you don't mind, I'll have it also on the webpage so that it's available, so that we all have a list for our community.
I absolutely do not mind.
Awesome. Because that's what we're doing. We're building a community. We're healing the community. One person at a time is what I say. If I can touch one person, if something Renair says can touch one person, then we have done our job and then some.
That's right.
Right?
People think, you got thousands of people. One. Because there's a ripple effect.
Absolutely.
I set out to do one. And sometimes that one person might just be me.
Exactly. All right. It doesn't say who the one person has to be, but it just has to be one person, right?
That's right.
So, so if we can just touch one person, then we've done our work that we set out to do on both a mental and physical level, because you have to take care of mind, body, and soul. If the mind is not enriched and the mind is not healthy, you impact your physical health. And this is what we try to stress to the community.
Absolutely.
And having healthy relationships starting with self and with others is part of that. And we want to strengthen those relationships. And sometimes you need help. So take the opportunity to reach out for counseling services, therapy services, life coaching, whatever. talk to someone, all right? Because we've, as you heard us in our conversation, we've been through the gamut and then some. We have several layers to ourselves. And like I tell my kids, I wasn't born this way. It was work.
Yeah. Sometimes it was a second and third shift, I tell you.
I know, right? Right? And I just told someone yesterday, they're like, okay, you're almost done with your doctorate. Now what are you going to do? I'm like, yeah, I'm probably going to go into to do holistic medicine because that's something I like too, right? So, plant-based medicine.
The only reason why I'm not going back to school is because I already owe Sally Mae and them a mansion. Like I owe them 6 figures plus.
Isn't that like every...
Unless someone's paying for me to go, I'm not doing that. However, I never stop learning, and I'm always looking at,
that's
different
it.
classes and certifications, because you don't get this far and then go, I know everything.
No.
You can't.
You can't. You can't. And that's the beauty of us being humans and having a brain, because we can keep learning and keep striving to be better and better each day. And that's what we want to share. If there's a free class to take it. It doesn't hurt to learn anything. And then once you learn something, disseminate that information, send it out to the community. Tell one person, that one person is going to tell somebody else. That's what we are striving to do. Grow.
Exactly.
Just grow. Right? So I don't want to keep you too much longer, but because I can keep talking to you and we can go on so many other conversations.
Well, you know what? I'll come back again. I'll come back when the film comes out. I'll come back when the book comes out. I'll come back.
Oh, thank you. Because I will keep having you back because I know we can definitely have several different conversations, and I appreciate you. I appreciate what you bring to the podcast. I appreciate what you bring to me as an individual, because like I said, with every conversation that we've had, we've learned something about each other, and it just keeps growing from there. So I feel like there's a lifelong friendship that we've created, and we're going to continue to cultivate on one level or another. We'll definitely be in touch. I'm not worried about it, so I ain't going to go any further.
No, I agree with that. The feeling is absolutely mutual. I joked before we started about knowing each other from a past life. Like, and sometimes you meet kindred spirits that you feel like you've known all your life, and so I definitely feel like that whenever we get up on a conversation, because we're doing this for the podcast, but our conversations will last 3-4 hours.
It sure enough would. And it's like we're looking like, you know what, we got to get the heck off the phone.
Yes. Since we shut down construction already around me.
Right. I know, we got to let her get back to work over there. So with that, I would say thank you so much. I appreciate you. Much love and light always. And like I said, if you were here, I'd give you like one big hug and say thank you. You are, you know what? You're my sister, and that's how it is. And it's a relationship that's going to continue to grow. So thank you. Much love always, my dear, and I definitely will be in touch, and we will be doing this again, because as we were sitting here, I wrote down so many things that we're going to discuss in the future.
Absolutely, and I thank you. And for anyone listening, you can find me. I'm Renair Amin, Renair Amin, on every social media platform. My website is pinklovewellness.com. And so if you want to stay connected, we can stay connected that way. But I will be back, and I'm just grateful that God has allowed me to meet you through Chris. But I'm so grateful that Chris saw fit to make the introduction, because it's been such a blessing.
Absolutely, and Chris is definitely a blessing, and they'll be back on too, because they got so much going on. I don't know. So we got to check in with Chris, right? Make sure they're doing what they're supposed to be doing. And if you guys are wondering why I'm referring to Chris as they, then Chris is non-binary, and I think we discussed that when Chris was on. So just to kind of clarify that, because I'm not talking about several people, and I know some people who are learning how to use the proper pronouns can get confused. So that's the proper pronoun for Chris, they and them. So that's what I do, right? That's what we do, right in here.
That's what we do.
That's what we do. But thank you, and I will be in touch. Like I said, love you tons, and please, I'll be texting you and doing all kinds of crazy stuff. So now that now that I have your phone number again, because oh my god. Anyway, I'm insane.
Listen, folks, she was doing her best this morning.
I really was, and hey, thank God for social media, because I don't know, I've been sitting here waiting, like, and hearing crickets.
Never that. I was like, hello, hi.
Are we still doing this? I know, it's insane. But you know what? That's the real world, and that's what we do. I can't be my authentic self if this is not who I am, and this is who I am 100% of the time.
Well, I would say this before we go, because I know it's almost time to go. I cut the light on and forgot that I had sat in the closet and almost freaked out. So that's how I know it's time for me to go. I will scream. You would be like, "Why?" I was like, "Oh, that's her shirt." I am in the closet. So.
Yeah, let's get you out the closet and get me out the closet too. So yes, guys, we're both in the closet right now. And it's not figuratively. We're really in the closet.
No, literally we are in the closet.
In the closet. So, so this broadcast is really crazy, but you know what? That's the fun part of it being a podcast. It's real. It's us, and you never know what you're going to get from episode to episode. So with that, vaya con Dios, and I will see you guys, or listen, or hear, or whatever. I don't know. One day you'll see me, but in the meantime, you know where to find me. Oh my gosh.